Namo Vishtabharaya Krishna Stamale Shmati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deva Gauravani Charani Devase Shashinavani Pastatajani Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're starting the reading from Canto 10, Chapter 84, The Sages' Teachings at Kurukshetra, text 2 through 5, and then there's no purport until 9. So we'll read all the way through 9. The first one is just recitation of the names of many great sages. And there's 4 verses altogether. So maybe I'll read the whole thing once, and then you can individually do one verse. Okay? Makes sense? Iti samba samanasu stridibir strishu nribir nrishu ayayor muniyas tatra Krishna Rama tridikshaya Dvaipanyano naradascha chavano devarostitaha Vishvamrita shatanando bharatrajotas gotamaha Rama sashisho bhagavan vashisto galavo brigo Pulascha kashyapos tridischa Markandeyo brihaspati Dvitas tritascha katascha Brahmaputras tatangrira Agasto yagyavalgyascha Vamadeva dayopare. So you chant one verse and then we'll repeat, okay? Or one line we'll repeat. First line, then because it's so long, just do maybe one 4 verse. Iti sambhashamanaso Shribir Srishu Nribir Nishu Ayayor Muniyas Tatro Krishna Rama Tridikshaya Dvaipayano naradascha Ayat Vishvamrita shatanando Brahmaputras tatangiraha Ladies, can you see from there? Anybody can see it? Ladies in the back, the signs in the front. I'm glad to know that men all believe that women have twice as good a vision as we have. Okay, men, please chant one more time. Iti sambhashamanashu Stribir strishu nibir nishu Rapayana naradascha Thank you. So we'll go right to the translation because it's almost all recitation of the names of the sages. As the women thus talked among themselves, you can repeat. And the men among themselves. A number of great sages arrived there. All of them eager to see Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. They included Dvaipanyan, Narada, Shayana, Devala and Asita, Vishvamrita, Satamnanda, Dvaradvaja, and Gotama, Lord Parshuram, and his disciples, Vashishta, Galava, Brigu, Pulascha, and Kashyapa, Atri, Markandeya, and Brihaspati, Dvita, Trita, Ekata, and the four Kumaras, and Angira, Agastya, Yagyavalkya, and Vamadev. No purport, so I'll read text 6. Tandvishva sahasotaya pragasina nipadaya Pandava Krishna Ramocha prane mor vishvavanditan. As soon as they saw the sages approaching, the kings and other gentlemen who had been seated immediately stood up, including the Pandava brothers and Krishna and Balaram. They all then bowed down to the sages who are honored throughout the universe. Text 7. Tan choryata sarve saharamo chuto rachat svagasta sana padyargya malya dupanule panai. Lord Krishna, Lord Balaram, and the other kings and leaders properly worshipped the sages by offering them words of greeting, sitting places, water for washing their feet, drinking water, flower garlands, incense, and sandalwood paste. Text 8. Uvacha sukhamasinan bhagavan dharma guptanu sadasastasya mahato yatta vacho nushinvataha. After the sages were comfortably seated, the Supreme Lord Krishna, whose transcendental body protects religious principles, addressed them in the midst of that great assembly. Everyone listened silently with rapt attention. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. Jai, you like that line, huh? You can just listen. Aho vayam janma brito labham kartsnyena tatparam devanam apidus prapam yad yogeshvara darshanam. The Supreme Lord said, "Now our lives are indeed successful, for we have obtained life's ultimate goal, the audience of great yoga masters, which even demigods only rarely obtain." Purport by the disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Despite the great privileges the demigods enjoy as administrators of the universe, they rarely see such sages as Narada and Vyasadeva. How much rarer, then, must it be for the earthly kings and mere cowherds to see them? Here Lord Krishna, identifying himself with all the kings and others who had assembled at Saman Pankaja, speaks on their behalf. Jai. Om Gyanatamiyan Nishajanan Anjana Shalakaya Chakshu Umanitamina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitan Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So thank you again for the opportunity to speak. I was here last week, and from here I went to Kazakhstan. Raise your hand if you've been to Kazakhstan. Anybody been to Kazakhstan? Jai. 3 of us. Here the temperature is what, 22, 23 centigrade temperature? In Kazakhstan it was 17 below zero. And that's not so cold there, not so cold. It gets much colder. But what was nice to see was that despite what many of us would consider difficult material circumstances, there's Vaishnavas there, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his representatives. And they have a very nice community called Vrindavan Park. And they have another community, the farm. What's the name of the farm? Vrindavan Dham. So they have Vrindavan Dham and Vrindavan Park, both. You can go from the Dham to the park and from the park back to the Dham. You never have to leave Vrindavan. It's very nice. And was formerly a Soviet country, a communist country, where atheism was the official ideology. And we know by Prabhupada's intense desire to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere, he went to Moscow, and then from Moscow the Krishna tradition spread in Armenia and Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan and all the Central Asian republics. So it's very inspiring to see devotees there worshiping the deities, chanting nicely, studying Prabhupada's books, wearing tilak, wearing saris, wearing dhotis, the same transcendental culture being spread all around the world by Prabhupada's mercy. So very special. So here in this series of verses, we're continuing hearing about the Lord's pastimes with the Lord and his devotees, and they've all met at Kurukshetra. In this particular series of verses, we're reciting the names of many of the great sages who have arrived there to see Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram, and they're being honored by all of the assembled kings and the cowherd men and all the different people that are present. The Pandavas are there. And in the last verse here, Krishna himself is talking about how rare it is to associate with sadhus, with saintly people. And he mentions that even the demigods, the administrators of the universe, were very, very powerful. Like, we look every morning, we wait for the sun to come up. The personality behind the sun, the personality behind the moon, the personality behind the oceans, behind the earth, behind the heavens. For them, it's rare to have the association of saintly people. According to Lord Krishna, given this specific instruction and glorification of the sages. And then it's going to go on later. Purports are going to talk about how the sages themselves are completely amazed that Krishna is talking like this. Because he's God, but he's talking like an ordinary human being about the importance of associating with saintly people, to give that instruction. So several lessons that come to mind that we can draw from them, from these texts, and how it applies to us. And the first one, of course, is the most obvious. It's stated right in the text. How rare it is to have the association of saintly people. Or we should also think of those aspiring to be saintly. When I flew back from Kazakhstan, I was sitting next to a young man who was very intelligent, philosophical. He spent a couple years in the United States. He actually had come from Delhi. I flew from Delhi to Mumbai. He was sitting next to me. And for probably more political reasons than anything else, he was just denied his visa to come to the United States. So we were talking a little bit, and I was trying to figure out how to. He was a pious person in one sense, but I was trying to figure out how to kind of dent his material consciousness. Well, what could I say that he would actually understand? And I tried all kinds of different things. And I maybe made a little impression. We had a friendly conversation. We were sharing thoughts on different matters. But I was realizing I just take it for granted. I come here, or we all come here, and you talk about you're not your body. Everybody goes, yeah. Of course, we know that. Simple. Even sometimes we listen to Prabhupada's lectures, or when we read Prabhupada's purports, he repeatedly says, you're not the body, you're not the body. And sometimes we think, okay, Prabhupada, I heard that years ago. I understand. Let's move on. But when we associate with people of the world, so many of them in so many cultures and economic systems and political systems, especially these days, more and more and more, they're very much convinced they're the body. They're convinced, I'm Indian, I'm American, and we should rename the Gulf of Mexico because it's ours. So many examples. I can conquer this part of the world because actually it's due to us. So many conquerors in the past, they said, we have a right to this land. Century after century after century. Whether it's this continent or that continent or another continent, people are thinking we have the right because they're not understanding the basic principles that I'm spirit soul, I'm not this body, there's a consciousness behind the entire universe, everything is owned and controlled by the Lord, I should live simply. These are things that we tend to take for granted, but the fact is that most people don't. They're very much caught up in thinking I'm the body. I'm Indian or American or Russian or German, or I'm from Gujarat, I'm from Maharashtra, etc. I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm young, I'm old. Very much bewildered by these things. So to have the association of saintly people, people are actually thinking there's another purpose in life. I was trying to make this point to this young man I was sitting with, that every spiritual tradition in the world teaches there's a higher purpose of life. It's not just about trying to be comfortable here and exploit or enjoy the resources of the material world, because they just think this can't satisfy us. It's described as like trying to mix oil and water. It just doesn't mix. You can stir and stir and stir and stir, try and try and try to be happy in so many different ways, but it always, the oil separates. In the same way, the spirit soul always is dissatisfied. We have to be unsatisfied and unfulfilled by our material experiences because we're not material. We're spiritual beings lost in the material world. So to have the association of saintly persons, especially these great, great, great sages described here, these are personalities, they all travel all over the universe, the ones in this verse, and enlighten people and try to awaken them to God consciousness, Krishna consciousness, spiritual consciousness. So we may not regularly see Vyasadeva and Narada, but in the Bhagavatam we hear from these personalities. And it's described that the sound vibration is much more important than the physical association. So we should relish the opportunity to hear from them as we, throughout the pages, the Bhagavatam, so many descriptions are there, where they're speaking, they're teaching, they're giving an example. That we should be very, very grateful for, understanding how rare it is to have that association. But also we should feel grateful and understand how rare it is to have the association of aspiring saintly persons. We're all like that. We're all trying to be saintly persons. We're not saintly persons, but we're trying to be saintly persons. Just to be with people that want to try is rare in this age. I remember, and probably many of you have friends and family members today, but with the same experience, I remember, when I was first becoming a little more serious about my spiritual life, my friends kind of divided. It was like a biblical thing where whatever river was divided by Moses. There was those that wanted to hear and those that absolutely wanted nothing to know about what I was doing. I would talk to them about, I went to the temple, or I read this book, or I'm chanting this mantra, and I'm having this experience, and they would kind of look at you with glassy eyes. There's even George Harrison, who we know Prabhupada had so much influence on him. He wrote, some of his songs and his public discussions, he talked about so many of his friends also, they just didn't want to hear. They didn't want to hear. They were not interested. So some friends very interested. Oh, you're understanding spiritual life. This is great. Tell me more about it. And other friends, you start talking to them, and they kind of leave the room as quickly as possible. because they don't want to hear about it, because they want to be convinced that if I make money, if I get a good education, if I win an award for my beauty or my intelligence or my strength, that'll make me happy, and don't distract me. Because you're telling me those things won't make me happy. I don't want to hear that, because I have my mind fixed on those goals. So to associate with saintly people, and those trying to become saintly people, whose very association reminds us, there's a higher purpose of life. This is a rare thing, and it's a very fortunate thing. And we should feel very, very grateful, because saintly persons, for now I'll just say saintly persons, although also meaning those aspiring to be saintly, they remind us of Krishna. They remind us that there is a personality behind this entire universe, that there's a purpose to life, there's actually a purpose to suffering, that this world is not our home. They help us advance in spiritual life, and they actually protect us. They protect us because our mind is constantly telling us, what are you doing? Why aren't you just trying to enjoy your senses? You know that's the best thing for you. Right? The mind is telling us. And sometimes it even tells us, you will never be successful on the spiritual path. Not possible. You're not strong enough. You're not austere enough. You're not intelligent enough. You're not surrendered enough. You're disqualified in so many ways. Just go do some nonsense material thing, even though you did it for so many years before you became a devotee, one extent to the other. Maybe many, many births before you became a devotee, but still maybe this time. The mind is telling us like that. And the devotees, the saintly persons, they're saying, why would you waste your time doing that? You've tried that so many times before. Give this, as Prabhu says, give this one life to Krishna. So, first lesson, that it's rare to have the association of saintly people. We should very much appreciate it. And of course, at the same time, we understand is associating with saintly people, those aspiring to be saintly people. Is it always easy? Raise your hand if you live in an ashram. Well, let's say like a temple ashram. So we know there's grahastha ashram, but for now, raise your hand if you live in an ashram. Yeah. Is it always easy? Good. There's at least one honest man here in the front. He says, no, it is not always easy. The first time I went on, well, not the first time, but I remember one time in the Brahmacharya ashram, we all had a locker. This big, by this big, you put all your things in there. And one time I went on Harinam and I came back and I opened the locker and a lot of my things were gone. I thought, what happened? And one devotee, I asked him, I said, do you know what happened to my things? He said, yeah, I thought it was time to purify you. I was going to minimize your materialistic attachments, which he did. And sometimes we have to associate with people who are aspiring to become saintly, but they're not free from anger, or they're not free from ego, or they're not free from the other material conditions that we experience. It's funny, I just read a few verses ahead of time. It's very interesting. It describes the different ways that one becomes purified. This comment is for the grahastas. It talks about whatever, the sages get purified by austerity, and so get purified by study, and then it says the grahastas get purified by family relationships. It was like implying, by the process of having not purified, detached. So by the process of having a family and children and a wife or a husband and a mortgage and rent and taxes and going to work, and you become detached. It was very interesting because it didn't say like by austerity or Shastra. No, just by being there, you become detached, which is very interesting just to see that. So sometimes it's a little hard to associate with saintly persons, but we do so because it's important. That's the second point. It's not only rare to associate with saintly persons, but it's very important. Because by their association, again, we become reminded of Krishna, reminded of the goal of life. We gain strength. Our doubts are relieved. Sometimes we have doubts about spiritual life. We reveal our mind to our peers or some of the seniors. and those doubts are eradicated. We should always remember how vulnerable we are and how influenced we are by our association. Our mind and our intelligence, they're very much influenced by the surroundings, the things that are there. Otherwise, why is it there's so much, simple example, why is there so much advertising? Why is it in a magazine, I don't know, 40% ads, 50% ads? If the radio's on, so many ads, television, so many ads. Now you have to pay, or else your phone just bombards you with ads, right? You have to get like a ads blocker. Sometimes you go different countries and your ad blocker doesn't work. You have to pay for another ad blocker. Why is that? Is it because those companies just like to spend money? No, because they know. If we keep reminding you, oh, you need this sweater, you need this sweater, you need this sweater, you start thinking, I need that sweater, right? They tell you, go to this place, go to this place, go to this place, you start thinking, yeah, I think I should go to that place. I might have told this story before, but I remember as a young devotee, I lived in Colorado, which is about a 2-hour flight to Los Angeles, where we would go for Rath Yatra. So in Colorado, it's known for snow and skiing and beautiful mountains. So I remember going in the airport in Colorado, in Denver, and seeing a big sign, Enjoy LA, Los Angeles. Of course, now we know Los Angeles and almost just burnt down, right? So we didn't know that years ago. It says, Enjoy Los Angeles. So then I remember flying to Los Angeles and getting off the plane, a big sign, Enjoy Hawaii. I thought, this is very funny, because I was just there, and then they tell me, now I'm here, but they say, no, you have to go there. Years later, I didn't go very often, but once or twice, on the way to India, I flew through Hawaii. And when I landed in Hawaii, there was a big sign, Ski Colorado. So if you're in Colorado, you got to go to LA. If you're in LA, you go to Hawaii. If you're in Hawaii, you go to Colorado. This is a miniature samsara. Cycle of birth and death. Colorado, LA, Hawaii, Colorado, LA, Hawaii, Colorado, LA. And eventually, we're meant to wake up. But we're influenced. That's why they do all these advertisements, because they know by making people contemplate the objects of the senses, Krishna says, one develops attachment for them. Right? And then some lust for it. I need a Coca-Cola. I need Pepsi. Right? You can't even drive down the street. Pepsi, Coke. Because it affects people's minds. So we want to affect our minds, focus our minds on Krishna. So we need the association of devotees. And it's very, very important that we take shelter of devotees. And as Krishna says, actually, he uses an interesting expression. He says, to do so means you have obtained life's ultimate goal. Doesn't mean you're ripe like a fruit. Prabhupada talk about all of my devotees are like a mango, right? They're already ripened. But it still has to ripen. Fully formed, it has to ripen. So in Krishna consciousness, we've accepted the path of pure devotional service, and yet it still has to ripen, which takes some time. And it becomes ripe, just like the fruit becomes ripe especially when it's connected to the tree. It just takes a little time. So in the same way, we need to be very, very careful and appreciate and take advantage of association with devotees. And when sometimes it seems difficult, we should remember it may be difficult to associate with devotees sometimes, but at the very least, they are helping me remember who I am, what's the purpose of my life, and how to obtain love for Krishna. That's very valuable, even if it's difficult sometimes. Very important for us to remember. So, second point. Third point, most important point. If the association of saintly persons is rare, if the association with devotees is very rare, an opportunity for anyone, how fortunate are all of us to have the association of Srila Prabhupada. We should never forget this, how fortunate we are to have the association of Srila Prabhupada. When we read the life of Prabhupada, the Lilamrita, so many other histories, then we realize there were so many challenges that Prabhupada faced. Just yesterday we're reading here I will build you a temple. Right? Prabhupada's prayer to Radharasbihari, which he did. But it's, 600 pages, 800 of challenges. So many obstacles. Prabhupada didn't give up. And because Prabhupada didn't give up, we're here. He could have given up many, 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 many times. Right? Like Prabhupada says, gave that example. Said we should like hunt for the rhinoceros, and even if you fail, it's still glorious. Prabhupada could have left this many times. He's like, Prabhupada, you tried so hard. It's already glorious. Prabhupada, this challenge was too much. It's already glorious. That problem's so many. Prabhupada didn't give up. And because he didn't give up, we're here today in this temple, worshiping RadhaRasbihari, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Gorni Tai, thousands of people coming here because of Prabhupada. It's actually a miracle. I might have mentioned this before. You can go on, if you look, there's a video online on YouTube. You just Google ISKCON 50th Anniversary Harvard. We held an event at Harvard University 6-7 years ago in celebration of the 50th anniversary. And one well-known scholar, one of the first scholars to ever meet Srila Prabhupada, he spoke. He's passed away since, Thomas Hopkins. And he gave what's called the keynote address, the opening address. And in his address, he mentioned that we're here to observe and discuss 50 years of Krishna Bhakti coming to the West, coming around the world. And he said, particularly looking at the contributions of Bhaktivedanta Swami. He said, I'm a historian. So as a historian, we make comparisons. He said, so if as a historian I look around the world's history to try to compare the accomplishments of Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami, I can only think of two comparisons. This is not a Hare Krishna speaking. This is a professor of religion, okay? Very esteemed professor. He said, I can only think of two examples. Jesus and Muhammad. He said, but there's a difference. He said, Jesus was in his own country. He had the help of people of his own age, his own culture, his own language to start his movement. He said, Muhammad was in his own country, people speaking his own language. He had his friends and his family to help him. He said, Prabhupada, different country, different language, no friends, no family, no supporters. He started from scratch. He said, so in that way, actually, as a historian, there's no comparison to Prabhupada's accomplishments. Again, this is not Anuttama talking, or so-and-so Swami, or ISKCON people, or even, some Hindu pundit. This is a Western scholar speaking like this. And then he said, of course, ISKCON has many challenges today, because we're talking about 50 years of successes, challenges. He said, but the same way Christianity and Islam, many, many very serious challenges after 50 years. So he said, so, we'll see how the history plays out. And that history, of course, is being made today by everybody in this room. We're writing that history. Scholars will look back 50 years from now and see, how did we do? And let's hope they tell a equally happy story. So it really is miraculous what Prabhupada accomplished. And we should be very, very careful as Prabhupada Anugas to not think that Srila Prabhupada is not here now and that he's not available for us to associate with. Sometimes devotees will say things like, oh, I wish I was there in the early days. First of all, I think, okay, if Lord Chaitanya's movement is going to last for 10,000 years and we're 50 years into it, I think this is still the early days, yeah? I think so. So it's still the early days. And sometimes we hear, well, I wish I was able to associate with Srila Prabhupada. But we know Bhaktivinoda Thakur and so many places in the Shastras said that you associate with a saintly person through sound. It's the most important means. And actually the fact is today, all of you here today have much, much more opportunity to associate with Prabhupada than the direct disciples did during most of Prabhupada's time preaching. In the early days, some devotees had a lot of association with Prabhupada. Some devotees would travel with him, a very few, just a few, a handful. But Most devotees, Prabhupada, when Prabhupada was physically here, he'd come to a certain place for a few days or a week, generally, sometimes longer. They would have Prabhupada's association. Then he would go somewhere else. And you wouldn't know what he was saying or teaching. Maybe you get a letter now and then. He would say, I went to this place or that place. But today, you can hear all of his lectures. Some weren't recorded, but almost all of his lectures recorded. You can read all of his letters. When Prabhupada was here, maybe you get one letter addressed to somebody in your temple, and they would read it to everybody. You can read all the letters. You can read the letters to LA, the letters to Paris, the letters to Argentina, the letters to Mexico, the letters to Mumbai, the letters to Delhi, the letters to Calcutta. Wherever Prabhupada was, you can read those letters. Whatever video footage there was of Prabhupada, it's there today. You have the opportunity to listen to it today. His books weren't available in so many languages. Slowly, more and more languages are there. They weren't all available. When I became a devotee, it came a little late, but 1975, the 5th canto came out, I think. It was the first one. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, forget it. Chaitanya Charnarita didn't exist. And the earlier devotees, like 1 or 2 books, right? The Bhagavad-gita would get translated, or Easy to Journey to Other Planets. They were like excited. They had like a book they could read. You all can read all of Prabhupada's books. You can hear all of his lectures. So the chance to associate with Prabhupada is even greater, through sound, even greater today than it was in the past. And we should understand, sometimes we think, well, you have your guru and I have my guru, and yeah, Prabhupada's there. Prabhupada is the founder Charya of ISKCON. He founded ISKCON. He's the Charya. Acharya means what? He's a teacher. He's the example. For who? For his direct disciples? For the first generation? For the second generation? For the third generation? All future of ISKCON. He is the founder Acharya. And we know there was a few times when they didn't put that title on some buildings and things. Prabhupada was very upset. Why was he upset? Was he puffed up? Oh, you didn't put my name on the building? I have so many buildings, but you forgot that one. I'm angry. Was that it? No, because he wanted to clearly explain who is the founder, who is the Charya. Because in the future, other people may come and say, I'm the Charya. There was one community, I won't get into that. It happens. But we should understand he's the founder, Acharya, and also we understand the preeminent Siksha Guru for all of us. Preeminent means the first one. He's the preeminent Siksha Guru. And all of us have a relationship with him. We can all pray to Prabhupada. We can all talk to Prabhupada. We can all ask Prabhupada for his help, for his guidance. And everyone, we should remember, we're all here by his mercy, by Prabhupada's mercy. Of course, we're indebted to so many others. We're indebted to so many others. We have our Diksha Gurus. Those of us that take an initiation, we have a Diksha Guru. All of us, we have so many Siksha Gurus. We have the Vartma Pradarshika Guru in our lives, those that first showed us the path. The Chaitya Guru is there. Our mother is there. Our father is there. So many teachers, so many people are indebted to. But as members of ISKCON, before all of these other relationships, we have a relationship with Prabhupada, our spiritual relationships with Srila Prabhupada. Just as we mentioned here in this temple especially, it's easy to remember. But we should ask ourselves, just like right now, okay, this later cantos, because Prabhupada left this world and he asked his disciples to continue the translation. But most of the Bhagavatam, all of the Chaitanya Charnarita, Bhagavad-gita, we have classes in all these texts, Nectar Devotion. Who wrote those books? It was Prabhupada. We're studying Prabhupada's books, and we'll continue to do that in this temple for hundreds of years. Other people are going to come, they're going to go. I'm going to come, I'm going to go. Maharaj, even Maharaj, may he live to be 500, but eventually he's going to leave, But new people will come, new devotees will come, and they'll still be reading Srila Prabhupada's books. We have Prabhupada on his Vyasa-san, forever in ISKCON, devotees. Our children and their children's children and children's grandchildren, they'll be worshiping Srila Prabhupada. We have so many Vyasa-pujas, there's different gurus, Diksha gurus in ISKCON, but we all come together for Vyasa-puja. We all worship Srila Prabhupada on his appearance day. In our society, one becomes serious, wants to take initiation, we chant how many rounds? Who said 16? Prabhupada said 16. We here in the morning, we have our morning program. Most places 4:30, some places 5. We have Mangala arati, then maybe some announcements, and Tulsi-Puja, Vanchakalpa, and Bhagavatam. Who gave that schedule? Prabhupada gave that schedule. So our whole lives as members of ISKCON, they're shaped by Srila Prabhupada. Who started ISKCON? You know, maybe you can go to other temples in the world today. Maybe somebody else bought the land, started the temple, installed the deities. Who started ISKCON? Who gave the original idea? Who gave the 7 purposes for ISKCON? Srila Prabhupada. Who traveled the world to create the whole society? Who first went to America? Who first went to Russia? Who first went to Africa? Who first went to South America? Who first went to Australia? So we're all indebted to Srila Prabhupada. When I was in Kazakhstan, I was amazed. There was one young woman devotee I spoke with for a few minutes. She took a little leadership course I was teaching. And I don't remember the details. I have to go back and find out the details. She was explaining how she was in some country like Tajikistan or one of those. And she was having dreams of Prabhupada before she'd ever met the devotees and ever read any of Prabhupada's books. Never seen a book. She finally met devotees on the street, and they handed the book with Prabhupada's picture. She said, I know that man. He'd been coming and speaking to her, telling her, I think 2 dreams. She had 3 total. Prabhupada was telling her, like, take up spiritual life, and she didn't know who's talking to him. And then she saw the book. And today she's a devotee in her country. So, Saintly Persons Association is rare. It's very important, and especially all of us, we should remember and speak about, encourage others to understand our intimate connection with Srila Prabhupada as our founder, Acharya, and preeminent Siksha Guru. And we should remember, looking into the future, how is it possible we will stay together? As Prabhupada said, is this the Mumbai Society for Krishna Consciousness? Is it the Indian Society for Krishna Consciousness? The American Society for Krishna Consciousness? Is it the Men's Society for Krishna? The Sannyasi Society for Krishna? No, what is it? International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So how are we going to stay the International Society for Krishna Consciousness? A lot of tests are going to come. We've already seen it. We had a few communities, they split off. Some point in time, ISKCON actually had to cut off communities. You're not following, you're deviating from Prabhupada's, from our Vaishnava culture, you're gone. So how are we going to keep it together? There were challenges when Prabhupada's disciples were here. There's not that many of us left. Practically every month or so, there's a few more of my God brothers and God sisters that leave this world. And I think because they did benefit from Prabhupada direct association, and they saw how important it was that in Prabhupada's mind to keep the society together, they were really willing to make the sacrifices to keep it together. It's going to be tougher for all of you. There's going to be a lot of people saying, you know, you're a smart guy. I'm a smart guy. We can form our own society. What do we need them for? They're not advanced as you are. You're not as advanced as I am. Besides that, you know, Guru Maharaj, this, that, you know, we have our Guru, and, you know, we all should just work together. Just the few of us. Who needs these other people? It's another form of Maya. Maya says, come enjoy beautiful women, or come enjoy beautiful man, or come enjoy money, or come enjoy materialistic sensual gratification. Come and start your own spiritual movement. Separate yourself from what Prabhupada established collectively. Same thing, different forms of Maya. We shouldn't think, I have my guru, you have your guru. No. Prabhupada said in that very famous Vyasa-Puja, his spiritual master, said the guru is one. Different people are bringing that message, but that message is the same. And especially for us at this time as followers of Lord Chaitanya and followers of Prabhupada, it means we cooperate together, we put our egos aside, we put our separatist tendencies aside, and we remember it's Prabhupada's temples, it's Prabhupada's standards, Prabhupada's teaching, it's Prabhupada's example. Just like in the, we have this international leadership course, communications course, so many other courses. And the ones that are principle-based, they always start with the first principle is you have to be aligned with Prabhupada's teaching and example. Everything else follows after that. Everything else follows. If you're not aligned with Prabhupada and his teaching and his example, then there's so much potential to go other ways. So Prabhupada said that your love for me will be shown how you cooperate. But I would expand that a little bit and say our gratitude. Our gratitude should be shown by how we may feel I don't have much love for Krishna, for Prabhupada. Okay, you should feel grateful though. Shouldn't we feel grateful to all the gifts that we've been given? And if we feel grateful, then we should cooperate to help keep Prabhupada's institution together. If we're actually understanding Krishna consciousness, we should cooperate to keep ISKCON together. If we're connected to Srila Prabhupada, we should show that by our cooperation. And, in humble ways, if we hear people saying things or doing things different from that, we should very humbly correct them, This is not Gurudev's temple, it's Prabhupada's temple. It's not your temple, it's not the temple president's temple, it's not the GBC's temple, it's Prabhupada's temple. It's Prabhupada's temple. We should all work together. White, black, young, old, women, men, grahastas, brahmacharis, sannyasis. We also work together cooperatively for Prabhupada. And if we do that, then Prabhupada will show us his special mercy. He'll be especially pleased. And the movement will spread all around the world. Because this day and age, there's so much polarization. There's so much a tendency to say, you're with my party, we're against that party. Political party, racial party, gender party, ethnic party. You're with this group, I'm with that group. Separate, separate, separate. Even Prabhupada, when he was physically here, talked about, they say United Nations, but every year there's a new flag. He would comment like that. So who's the force? Who's the example that's going to actually show people cooperation? And not that I cooperate with you against him, but I cooperate with you because we also want to inspire and include him or her. That's the spiritual vision we're supposed to have. Not that we think, we're a spiritual success because we have so many temples. Every year, more and more temples. Every year, more and more marble. Every year, more and more political leaders come and say, oh, you're very nice. Please vote for me. That's not our success. It's the means to achieve our success. Just like that famous story when Prabhupada was in Mayapur, he was sitting in his bhajan kuntir, straw hut. It's still there today. You go to Mayapur just as you go inside the main gate. Prabhupada was sitting and he said to his disciples, this is actually the perfect environment for Krishna consciousness. It's very simple. We just chant Hare Krishna, think of Lord Chaitanya. And he pointed to the first building they were building, the Lotus building. And he said, that building is the mode of passion. It's not the perfect environment for Krishna consciousness. This is the perfect environment for Krishna consciousness. But if we sit here, who will come? No one will come. So we're building that. Why? To attract people to Krishna. So in a similar way, it's not that building beautiful temples is the proof of our success. We build beautiful temples and we will continue to do that. Not just beautiful, but clean and well managed and well organized and friendly. Very important. You could talk about the importance of being friendly to every person that walks in the door. We shouldn't think this is my temple, it's Prabhupada's temple. Here comes one of Prabhupada's guests. I'm Prabhupada's servant. I have to treat this guest to Prabhupada's house very specially. If I'm thinking, I'm a 1-year devotee, 2-year devotee, 20-year devotee, 40-year devotee, GBC, Prabhupada, disciple, guru, sannyasi, if we're thinking I'm that, and this is just some materialistic person, we're forgetting who owns this house. This is Prabhupada's house. It's Krishna's house, of course. Prabhupada built it for Krishna. So if we remember that, we'll be friendly to people that come. But we should always remember that without Krishna's mercy, without Prabhupada's mercy, I wouldn't be here. It's only by their mercy, and I'm very fortunate. So just to summarize, then we'll see if there's some questions. Association with sadhus is very rare. It's also very, very important. It's what keeps us in a position of safety at the Lord's lotus feet. Even Krishna himself says, you've already attained the ultimate perfection of life by association with the sadhus, because in that association, you will awaken Krishna consciousness. And last point, we're all the most fortunate because we have Srila Prabhupada's association. We should never forget that. We should always take shelter of Srila Prabhupada. And remember that challenges will come trying to separate us in the future. You go with this group, or you go with that group, or my group's better than yours. Even we hear things like even, I don't know if they call them Bhakti Viksha groups in this country. No, where I am in America, it's a challenge. Somebody starts having a Bhakti Viksha program, and then they start thinking, these are my people. I'm the guru of these people, and you all should take initiation from my guru. And don't go to that Bhakti Viksha group. You have to be in my Bhakti Viksha group. Don't go to that group. You're part of my... What is this I and mine? Where does it say in the scripture, I and mine is part of our philosophy? Where is that? I am the servant, right? And wherever you can go to help you advance in your Krishna consciousness, I should encourage you as your servant. Not that I claim proprietorship. So that's just an example of the way that this kind of sectarianism can fit in. And it's material consciousness. And it's tearing the material world apart. So much political bifurcation and polarization and hatred. Literally hatred. Who's going to stand up against that? Hopefully many people. Among them should be the devotees of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Because we know Prabhupada went everywhere. Prabhupada invited everyone. Prabhupada gave an opportunity for everyone to make progress in spiritual life. And it's described that Lord Chaitanya didn't discriminate. Prabhupada didn't discriminate. We shouldn't discriminate. Everyone should have the chance to come forward. And if we keep that mood, remembering he's our leader, he's our founder, he's our acharya, we'll be successful and our movement will be successful. And actually, as he said, his first purpose, to promote real peace and unity in the world. He said that's the purpose of this movement, to promote real peace and unity in the world. So we have a lot to do. So we'll take 10 minutes of questions and then get to work, pushing on Prabhupada's movement. Yes? Question, Prabhu? Comment?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. So wonderful. You glorified Prabhupada. Maybe somebody should transcribe this lecture and publish it so nicely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you record lectures?
Yeah, it's live.
Yeah.
My question is.
You sent to me.
My question is, you are speaking about Prabhupada's determination to build this temple.
Yes.
He didn't give it up.
Yes.
But Prabhupada writes in Chaitanya Charitamrita that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Benares, he didn't meet with success. Then that time Prabhupada said, sometimes you go preach, then it is not successful, then you should leave that place and go somewhere else where you meet with
Yes.
encouragement. So how to decide, be determined and continue or give up because it is unfriendly?
Yeah. Well, the first point is we should be very grateful. Prabhupada did say that. If you don't meet success, go somewhere else. And Prabhupada said when he was first in America, it was so difficult. Sometimes he would go to the Skindia steamship office and ask them, when is the next boat going back? Maybe I should go back. But he never did. And when he came here, when he was in Mumbai, so many obstacles. And I'm sure people said, Prabhupada, what's this? The land is full of, as the history is, I wasn't here, rats and, snakes, and wasn't anything here back then. So we should all feel so grateful. If he'd given up, there wouldn't be a Mumbai Juhu. Wouldn't be here. So that's the first thing. We should be grateful he didn't give up. And then ourselves, we have to be determined. And sometimes, it's just like this man I was talking to on the plane. I was trying from this angle. Then he just wasn't ready to hear. And luckily the plane landed, so I could end the conversation. But, we try, and sometimes if it's not working, we try other situations, And we take advice of our elders and peers and prayer, and we see where maybe there's a better place. And sometimes we run into a brick wall because Krishna wants us to go somewhere else. So we should be determined, but also keep our ears open for Krishna's message, that maybe I need to go somewhere else.
Thank you.
I had the experience years ago as a Sankirtan devotee. For a short time, devotees in the West, we used Santa Claus suits at Christmas. So we dressed up in the Santa Claus suits and told people, please contribute. Because it's like, he's a saint, right? And I was arrested in 3 towns, 3 nights in a row. Not for very long, but they keep you. I called the temple president. I said, Prabhu, it's not working. We need another plan. So I think for me that was a good example. Sometimes you have to change the plan. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, Prabhu. When we got arrested one time, the police in Santa Claus suit, the police chief thought it was so funny that there were bald Hare Krishnas in Santa Claus suits. He took us to meet the mayor because he wanted to entertain the mayor by showing what he thought was very, very funny. Then they told us, leave town. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Guruji, thank you for the class. So one question which intrigues me that when we are preaching in college or so, some boys, some are very actually interesting, but still by some arrangement, means somehow they don't get continuous association. Means they don't get continuous association. Means they don't get shifted in center something.
Okay, they move someplace else. Okay.
Means they don't get shifted to center. Actually, they are very interested, but still they cannot somehow. And there are some who are not very much interested, but they get chance and they get shifted. Means this is
Shifted to where?
Means to
into the center.
Into the center.
Okay.
So this means so is it their karma or some get means by chance one is getting mercy and one is not getting mercy.
Part of it is your karma. Because the devotee that's not so ready, that's more difficult to deal with, he moves in so you can learn to be tolerant. Yeah? You have to learn to be tolerant and to be humble. Well, it's interesting. Just this morning, I don't know if he's still here. There's a man that came up and talked to me after class, or after Mangalarti. And we hear this all the time in America. So this man was raised in Mumbai, came to the temple some when he was younger, went to America for all the reasons people go into America, they're going to make money and this and that. Met ISKCON, seriously started associating with ISKCON, and now he's got bead bag and he's, chanting and he's, very serious. We meet hundreds of people like that. Maybe some of you have heard, they come back here and then their family's really upset. What happened? We sent you to America to make money and you come back a serious Vaishnava. What went wrong? So same way, we don't know. Somebody may come here and then they leave. Maybe we have big aspirations for this young man I was talking to. I don't know what's going to, hopefully he got a little Krishna conscious. Who knows what's going to happen to him next? The boy who seems so enthusiastic, but he doesn't get in the center or he changes universities. Maybe he goes someplace else. He's going to have a big impact on the world. Many times you meet devotees, their first contact with the ISKCON devotee was somebody that left 10, 15 years ago. Sometimes, they don't chant, they don't follow principles, they're not serious, but they talk to this person about Krishna. And they get interested, they get a little inspired, they come to the temple, they become very serious devotees. There's many, many examples like that. So we don't know how Krishna is working. All we know is that every person we meet, as best we can, we should try to give them Krishna, encourage them in Krishna consciousness, in the mood of a servant, and leave it up to the Lord. He's working in many mysterious ways. Just like he worked in your life in mysterious ways. You could probably talk for hours how Krishna manifested all these tricks. Some friends, some this, some that. So he's working on everybody. So whatever little role he gives us to play in everybody's life to help them, we should be grateful and pray to Krishna, please, you take care of this boy that went someplace else. Please, Krishna, make me humble to deal with the boy who came here. And he'll continue to work his magic. It's okay? Okay. I think we have time for one more question. This is from the Prabhu and I who are going to form our own movement.
Hare. Thank you.
Don't ask how to do it. We don't want to reveal our plans.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for inspirational class. Prabhuji, you were mentioning that material attachments. So, I generally observed that the bodily attachment, the gross bodily attachment, is more easy to give up sometimes.
Then
But
what?
mental attachments. So why is it so?
Why?
Why it is so like that?
Well, I mean, for one thing, we know that we've been traveling in our subtle body for many, many years. The gross body we just had for a short time. But the subtle body is been there for a long time. And, you know, Krishna, I was just thinking this morning or yesterday, Arjuna, he's such a great warrior. He stands up against the Kauravas 11-7, right? He is outnumbered. His guru's on the other side. His grandfather's on the other side. Like, there's no reason they should win. He's so strong-minded. He's going to enter that battle. And then, you know, Krishna gives him spiritual intelligence. But he's so determined. But when Krishna tells him, well, just sit down, meditate, control the mind, what does Arjuna say? It's impossible. I can't do it. Arjuna said it was tough. So what to speak about us? It's very difficult. I remember years ago, we had a outreach center in Boulder, Colorado. It was like one of the student center. I remember one of the ladies who would come a devotee. She had a similar comment from her experience. And she said, you know, I can understand I'm not the body. That's easy. But I struggle to think I'm not my feelings. You know, so the souls that are in ladies' bodies, a lot of times feelings are very strong. You know, you feel the pressure and the strength of attachment. You know, men get a little more mental issues with the mind. But thinking, feeling, willing, we get distracted. But then if we go on chanting, that's again why devotee association is so important. Because the mind will tell you, you know, when I was in Kazakhstan, there's one little exercise we do. Be nice everywhere, but we talk about the importance of devotee association and then ask devotees after some time to go and offer appreciation to every single devotee in the room, everyone, especially those who have helped you in the past. Because sometimes there's, you know, maybe he talked to you 10 years ago when you were a new devotee and convinced you to stay, but you never thanked him. You never let him know how important that is. So when devotees get a chance to offer appreciation like that, many times their response is, so many people appreciated me, I had no idea I had played a valuable role in so many devotees' lives. So our mind wants to tell us, you don't do anything, you know, you never win book distribution, he wins every time, you're not sincere, you don't chant nicely, you don't, blah, blah, on and on and on and on and on, you know. His kids are better acting than your kids, you know, there's many varieties. So, but when we're with devotees, they remind us, no, actually, we should remind each other. You are so important to me. Without your association, without your shelter, without your example, maybe you're a struggling human being, but you don't give up. That inspires me. You know, I don't know anyone else who can eat 5 sweet balls at one sitting. I'm so inspired by your association. Many ways we can be inspired, right? So we should keep that in mind. Is that okay? So, you know, the mind is... Right, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, what, you beat the mind with a shoe in the morning and a broomstick at night? Right. It's not our friend. Last comment or question? Oh. What?
Should I ask?
Well, I saw him. Krishna saw Arjuna. not that I'm, but that's the example for us that he set. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. When Mother Yashoda wanted to catch Krishna, Krishna did not allow her to catch so easily. When she was fully tired, then Krishna agreed to catch, and Mother Yashoda had an opportunity to catch Krishna. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, while acquiring this land and trying to build a temple here, so many people gave so much trouble, so many problems. And when devotees were fully tired, that time Krishna helped, and Bal Thackeray, many other people came to help, and Srila Prabhupada was successful by the mercy of SriSriRadhaRasbihariTemple.
Srila
Hare.
Prabhupada ki. You should stop. Okay. Similarly, when we're tired, we should not give up. We're Prabhupada Nugas, we get tired, we should not give up. Okay? Thank you. You stand. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Rasa Bihari ki jai. Shri Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Shri Shri Gonitai ki jai. Vaishnav Sangha ki jai. Gaura Premanandi.